The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a warm golden glow over the modest neighborhood of Maple Grove. Children's laughter echoed from the small park down the street, where a worn swing set swayed gently in the breeze. Among the rows of weathered houses, one home stood out, the Ramirez family's little blue bungalow, a place filled with warmth, laughter, and a resilience that had weathered many storms. Maria Ramirez stood in the kitchen, the fragrant aroma of cumin and garlic filling the air as she stirred a pot of her famous chicken mole. Her husband, Miguel, was setting the table while their two children, Sofia and Diego, played nearby. Life had its challenges, but for the Ramirez family, evenings like this made it all worthwhile. Little did they know, their lives were about to take a drastic turn. As Maria placed the steaming dish on the table, a sharp knock echoed through their home. The cheerful atmosphere shifted. Maria's heart sank. She exchanged a worried glance with Miguel. It was the landlord, Mr. Thompson, a man who had never been friendly and had always cast a shadow over their home with his heavy-handed tactics. Maria wiped her hands on a towel, feeling the knot of anxiety tighten in her stomach. "Stay here," Miguel said softly to the kids, walking toward the door. Maria's heart raced as she listened to their landlord's booming voice. It was demanding and cold, a voice that had always made her skin crawl. "Mr. Thompson, good evening," Miguel said, trying to keep his tone calm. "Cut the pleasantries," Mr. Thompson snapped, shoving a piece of paper into Miguel's hands. "You're being evicted. You have 30 days to vacate." Miguel's eyes widened as he read the eviction notice. The words blurred for a moment as disbelief washed over him. "What? Why? We've always paid our rent on time. You can't do this." Mr. Thompson crossed his arms, a smug smile spreading across his face. "You don't belong in this neighborhood. I don't want your kind living here. I've had enough complaints from the neighbors. Pack your things and get out." "Pack our things. We have a right to stay here." Miguel's voice was rising, filled with frustration. Maria rushed to the side, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Mr. Thompson, please," Maria pleaded, her voice trembling. "We've built a life here. Our children go to school just down the street. This is our home." "Not for long," he retorted, turning on his heel and storming away, leaving them standing in shock. The weight of the eviction notice hung heavily in the air. Maria's heart raced as she clutched the paper, tears threatening to spill from her eyes. "What are we going to do, Miguel?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "We'll find a way," he replied, though the uncertainty in his voice mirrored her fears. "We can't let him do this to us." That night they gathered in the living room, the children oblivious to the weight of the world on their parents' shoulders. Sofia and Diego played with their toys, their laughter echoing through the house, a stark contrast to the turmoil inside. Maria and Miguel sat on the couch, holding hands, the eviction notice lying on the table like a dark cloud hanging over them. "We need to tell the kids," Miguel said, breaking the silence. "They deserve to know." Maria nodded, tears spilling over as she looked at her children. "We'll explain it to them. We'll figure this out together." As they sat down with Sofia and Diego, Maria took a deep breath, ready to face the storm that was about to engulf their lives. She could see the confusion in their eyes as they listened to their parents explain the situation. "We might have to move to a new home," Maria said gently, her voice trembling with emotion. "But no matter where we go, we'll always be together." The children exchanged worried glances. "Will we still go to the same school?" Sophia asked, her voice small. "We'll find a school, I promise," Miguel reassured her, though his heart ached at the uncertainty. "We're a family, and that's what matters most." Days turned into weeks as the eviction date loomed closer. The Ramirez family found themselves navigating the complexities of searching for a new home. They faced numerous obstacles: landlords who wouldn't rent to them due to their background, skyrocketing rents, and the sheer difficulty of finding a place that felt like home. As they traveled through the neighborhood looking for rent signs, Maria couldn't shake the feeling of being an outsider. The racist undercurrents of their community were no longer hidden. They were glaringly evident in the dismissive glances and overheard conversations about keeping the neighborhood safe. Each rejection felt like a stab in the heart, and Miguel's frustration grew as he fought against the systemic barriers holding them back. But through it all, they clung to hope. Friends from the community rallied around them, offering support and helping them search for housing. Neighbors who had once turned a blind eye began to lend a hand, organizing small gatherings to raise awareness about the discrimination the family faced. On the day of the eviction, the Ramirez family packed their belongings with heavy hearts. Boxes filled with memories surrounded them, each one a reminder of the life they had built. As they loaded the last box into their old van, Maria glanced back at the blue bungalow. The laughter that once filled its walls felt like a distant memory. "This isn't the end," Miguel said, his voice steady despite the tears in his eyes. "We will find a new place. We will rebuild." As they drove away, Maria squeezed the kids' hands, determination filling her heart. They might have lost their home, but they still had each other. The fight wasn't over, it was just beginning. The road ahead was uncertain, but Maria felt a flicker of hope ignite within her, a hope that one day they would return to a community that embraced them, a place where they could thrive without fear. Little did they know, the winds of change were beginning to stir in Maple Grove, setting the stage for a new chapter in their lives, one that would challenge not just the landlord who had evicted them, but the very fabric of the community itself. The Ramirez family found themselves living in a cramped but cozy studio apartment on the outskirts of Maple Grove. The vibrant colors that once adorned their blue bungalow were now replaced by stark white walls and a small kitchen that felt more like an afterthought than a functional space. Yet, amidst the starkness, the family spirit began to shine through the adversity. Maria woke early each morning, brewing coffee and preparing breakfast, trying to create a sense of normalcy for Sofia and Diego. Miguel had taken up a few odd jobs to keep their finances afloat while searching for a permanent home. Their days were filled with hope and uncertainty as they navigated the complexities of their new reality. One afternoon, as Maria was sorting through their boxes, she stumbled upon a photo album filled with snapshots of happier times, their children's birthdays, family gatherings, and moments of joy in their old home. Tears pricked her eyes as she flipped through the pages, each picture a painful reminder of what they had lost. Just then, Diego bounded into the room, his innocent face lighting up with curiosity. "What's that, Mama?" he asked, peering over her shoulder. "It's our family album, Mijo," she replied, forcing a smile. "Remember when we went to the beach?" Diego's face lit up as he recalled the day, the sound of waves crashing against the shore echoing in his memory. "Can we go again someday?" he asked. "Of course, sweetheart. We will make new memories," Maria assured him, hoping her words would soothe her own heart as well. As the days passed, the Ramirez family adapted to their new surroundings. They frequented a nearby community center where they found resources and support. Local families, many of whom faced their own struggles, became a lifeline for Maria and Miguel. They joined a group that focused on empowering families facing discrimination, sharing their stories, and advocating for their rights. During one of the meetings, Maria met Clara, a spirited woman in her 40s with a fiery passion for social justice. Clara had spent years fighting against the systemic injustices plaguing their community and saw potential in the Ramirez family's story. "You have a voice, Maria," she encouraged. "You can make a difference. We need to show the community what they're missing out on when they push people away." Inspired by Clara's words, Maria began to feel a sense of purpose beyond her own family's struggles. She started sharing their story on social media, detailing their experiences with Mr. Thompson and the challenges they faced as a family. To her surprise, the response was overwhelmingly supportive. Neighbors began to rally around them, sharing their own stories of discrimination and prejudice. Meanwhile, Miguel continued his search for a new home. He spent countless hours combing through listings, but every time he reached out, he was met with the same frustrating responses. "Sorry, we're looking for other applicants," or "This property is no longer available." With each rejection, Miguel felt the weight of his family's expectations pressing down on him. One evening, as he sat at the kitchen table with Maria, he sighed heavily. "I don't know how much longer we can keep this up, Maria. I feel like I'm failing you and the kids." Maria placed her hand on his. You're not failing us, Miguel. We're in this together. We'll find a way. We just need to keep trying. Their conversation was interrupted by the sound of Sofia and Diego giggling in the next room. Miguel smiled despite his worries. Look at them, he said, his voice softening. They're so resilient. As the days turned into weeks, the Ramirez family became more involved in the community. They attended events at the community center where they met families who had similar stories of overcoming adversity. Each gathering fueled their determination to stand up against the discrimination that had forced them from their home. One Saturday morning, the community center hosted a block party to promote unity and inclusivity. Maria and Miguel decided to set up a booth to share their story and gather support. They created a poster detailing their experiences and inviting others to join them in their fight against racism in their neighborhood. As they arrived at the block party, the atmosphere buzzed with excitement. Music played, and the smells of delicious food wafted through the air. Families gathered, children ran freely, and laughter filled the space. Maria and Miguel felt a flicker of hope ignite within them as they set up their booth. Look, there's Clara, Maria said, waving at her newfound friend, who was busy organizing games for the kids. Let's go say hi, Miguel suggested, a smile breaking through his previous worries. As they approached Clara, they were greeted with open arms. I'm so glad you're here. This is a great opportunity for you to share your story, Clara exclaimed, her enthusiasm infectious. Throughout the day, families stopped by their booth, some offering words of encouragement, while others shared their own experiences of discrimination. As Maria spoke, her voice trembled with emotion, but she felt a sense of empowerment wash over her. The community began to listen. Thank you for sharing your story, Maria, an older woman said, tears in her eyes. I had no idea what you were going through. We need to stand together against this. As the sun began to set, the Ramirez family felt a sense of belonging for the first time since the eviction. They realized they were not alone in their fight. The community was ready to stand with them. Maria's heart swelled with gratitude, knowing that they were beginning to carve out a new place for themselves. Later that evening, as they packed up their booth, Miguel pulled Maria aside. Can't believe how many people came by today, he said, his eyes sparkling with hope. Maybe we really can make a difference. Maria nodded, her heart filled with determination. We will make a difference, Miguel. We have to keep pushing forward. Our story matters, and so do all the stories of the families in this community. That night, as the Ramirez family sat together in their studio apartment, Maria felt a renewed sense of hope. They might have lost their home, but they were building something new, a community that was beginning to embrace them. The fight against racism was far from over, but they had found allies who were willing to stand with them. And as they closed their eyes that night, Maria whispered a silent prayer, not just for their own family, but for all the families fighting similar battles. The road ahead would be challenging, but with unity and determination, they would forge a path toward a brighter future, one that honored their resilience and the strength of their community. The morning sun peeked through the curtains of the Ramirez family's studio apartment, casting soft rays of light on the walls adorned with drawings and artwork made by Sofia and Diego. Each piece reflected their resilience and creativity, reminding Maria and Miguel of the importance of hope, even in the face of adversity. One Saturday morning, as Maria prepared breakfast, a knock on the door jolted them from their morning routine. Miguel exchanged a curious glance with Maria before heading to answer it. Standing at the threshold was a woman in her 30s, dressed casually, but with an air of confidence about her. She had curly hair and bright, friendly eyes that sparkled with enthusiasm. Hi, I'm Anna Jenkins, the new owner of the Maple Grove properties. She introduced herself with a warm smile. I've been going around the neighborhood to introduce myself and hear from the residents. May I come in? Of course, Miguel replied, stepping aside to let her in. Maria felt a mix of curiosity and apprehension as they welcomed this stranger into their home. As Anna entered, she looked around, taking in the colorful artwork on the walls and the modest decor that filled the space. This is lovely, she said, her smile widening. I can see a lot of creativity here. Maria smiled back, appreciating the compliment. Thank you. We try to make the best of our situation. I've heard about what happened with your previous landlord, Anna said, her expression shifting to one of concern. I want you to know that I'm committed to making this community welcoming for everyone. I believe everyone deserves a place to call home, free from discrimination. Miguel felt a glimmer of hope at her words. We faced quite a few challenges since the eviction, he admitted. Finding a new home has been difficult, especially with the barriers we've encountered. Anna nodded empathetically. I understand. I want to help change that. I'm working on some initiatives to support families in need, and I'd love your input. Would you be willing to share your story and experiences with me? Together, we can make a difference. Maria exchanged a glance with Miguel, their hearts racing at the prospect of having someone in their corner. We'd be happy to share, Maria said. Thank you for reaching out to us. As they discussed their experiences over breakfast, Anna listened intently, taking notes and asking thoughtful questions. She spoke passionately about her vision for the neighborhood, a place where diversity was celebrated and where families could thrive regardless of their background. I want to organize community events and workshops to bring people together, Anna explained, and I'd love for you to be involved. Your story can inspire others. The Ramirez family felt a sense of relief wash over them. Finally, there was someone who not only understood their struggles, but also wanted to take action. They spent the morning brainstorming ideas with Anna, discussing potential events that would promote unity and resilience in the community. As they wrapped up their conversation, Anna looked at them with sincerity. I believe we can turn this community around. Together, we can show everyone that diversity is our strength. Over the following weeks, Anna worked tirelessly to implement her ideas. She organized community meetings and began reaching out to local businesses for support. The Ramirez family, along with other residents, joined her efforts, sharing their stories and helping to spread the word. Maria felt invigorated as she attended each meeting, her voice growing stronger as she spoke about her family's experiences and the injustices they had faced. The community began to rally behind them, united in their shared goal of creating a welcoming environment for all families. One evening, during a particularly spirited meeting, Anna announced a community block party to celebrate their progress and showcase the talents of local families. This is our chance to highlight the beauty of our community, she said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. We'll have food, music, and activities for everyone. I want it to be a day where we come together and celebrate our diversity. The room erupted in cheers, and Maria felt a surge of energy course through her. This was the moment they had been waiting for, a chance to reclaim their place in the community and show that they belonged. As preparations for the block party unfolded, the Ramirez family found themselves busy coordinating their contributions. They decided to host a food stall, offering Maria's famous chicken mole, a dish that had always brought people together in their previous home. On the day of the block party, the atmosphere buzzed with excitement. Colorful banners adorned the streets, and the sounds of laughter and music filled the air. Maria and Miguel set up their food stall, proudly displaying their homemade dishes alongside other local vendors. As the event kicked off, families began to gather, sharing stories and enjoying the delicious food. Children raced around, playing games, and the energy was electric. Maria felt a sense of belonging wash over her as she served plates of chicken mole, watching families savor each bite. Your mole is amazing, a neighbor exclaimed, returning for seconds. It reminds me of home. Thank you. I'm so glad you like it, Maria replied, her heart swelling with pride. As the day went on, people from different backgrounds mingled, sharing laughter and stories. It was a beautiful tapestry of culture and community, and Maria felt the weight of their past struggles begin to lift. This was what they had fought for, a chance to belong. Amidst the celebration, Anna took to the stage, addressing the crowd with passion. Today, we celebrate not just our diversity, but our strength as a community. Each of you plays a vital role in making Maple Grove a welcoming place for all. Together, we can create a future where every family feels at home. Cheers erupted from the crowd, and Maria felt tears prick her eyes. It was a moment of unity, a turning point for the community that had been fractured by prejudice and discrimination. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the festivities, Maria found herself surrounded by new friends and allies. Clara, the fiery activist who had become a close confidant, joined them, her energy infectious. "This is amazing, isn't it?" Clara said, beaming with pride. "Look at how far we've come." Miguel wrapped his arm around Maria, pulling her close. "It truly is. I never imagined we would find a community like this." As the night continued, laughter and music filled the air, and Maria couldn't help but feel a sense of hope blossom within her. They had taken the first steps toward rebuilding their lives and finding their place in Maple Grove. But as the celebration continued, a shadow loomed in the background. Mr. Thompson, the former landlord, stood on the periphery, his expression dark and angry. He watched as the community came together, his contempt evident. The Ramirez family was starting to make a name for themselves, and he wasn't about to let that happen without a fight. Little did they know, the road ahead would be fraught with challenges as the former landlord's presence threatened the unity they had begun to build. But for now, the Ramirez family cherished this moment, a new beginning filled with possibilities and the promise of a brighter future. The air buzzed with excitement in Maple Grove as the block party festivities continued. The sounds of laughter, music, and celebration echoed throughout the neighborhood, but beneath the surface, a tension began to build. The success of the event and the community's growing unity didn't go unnoticed by Mr. Thompson, the former landlord whose racism and discriminatory practices had driven the Ramirez family away. He watched from a distance, his face a mask of displeasure. As the block party drew to a close, Maria and Miguel felt a sense of accomplishment. They had not only served their beloved chicken mole to appreciative neighbors, but also met countless new friends who shared their stories of struggle and resilience. This community was beginning to feel like home again, but the shadow of Mr. Thompson loomed large, threatening to unravel the progress they had made. The following week, Clara called a meeting at the community center to discuss the future. Families gathered, buzzing with anticipation as they exchanged stories of hope and triumph. Clara stood at the front, her passion palpable. "We've made incredible strides together, but we can't let our guard down. Mr. Thompson is still out there, and he's not going to take our unity lightly." Maria nodded, feeling the weight of Clara's words. "What can we do to protect ourselves in this community?" she asked, her voice steady but filled with concern. "We need to document every instance of his discrimination and rally support from local organizations," Clara suggested. "We have to show that we won't be intimidated. If he thinks he can push us around, he's mistaken." Miguel raised his hand, his expression serious. "We could organize a peaceful protest outside his office. Show him that we're united and that we won't be silenced." A wave of murmurs spread through the room as families exchanged glances, weighing the idea. It was a bold move, one that could attract attention but also risk backlash. Maria felt a surge of apprehension. What if he retaliates? He's already shown he's willing to go to great lengths to intimidate us. "We can't let fear dictate our actions," Clara replied firmly. "If we stand together, we can protect one another. We need to show him that our community is stronger than his hate." After much discussion, the families agreed to organize a peaceful protest scheduled for the following weekend. They planned to gather outside Mr. Thompson's office, holding signs that showcased their solidarity and determination to stand against racism. As the week progressed, Maria felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. She spent hours preparing for the protest, designing signs with her children and rallying support from neighbors. Sofia and Diego were eager to participate, excited to be part of something bigger than themselves. On the morning of the protest, the atmosphere buzzed with anticipation. Families from all over Maple Grove gathered outside Mr. Thompson's office, holding colorful signs that read messages of unity, hope, and defiance. "We are one community. No more hate. Our voices matter." The vibrant display of solidarity filled Maria's heart with pride. As Clara led the crowd in chants, Maria couldn't help but feel empowered. They were standing together, confronting the injustices they had faced and demanding to be heard. She looked around at her neighbors, their faces filled with determination, and felt a deep sense of belonging. However, as the protest gained momentum, Mr. Thompson emerged from his office, flanked by a couple of his supporters. His presence cast a chill over the crowd. He stood with his arms crossed, a smug expression on his face. "You think this little show is going to change anything?" he shouted, his voice dripping with disdain. "You're wasting your time." The crowd fell silent for a moment, taken aback by his brazen arrogance. Clara stepped forward, her voice strong and clear. "We're here to show you that we're not afraid of your hate. We're standing up for our rights and the rights of every family in this community." Mr. Thompson scoffed, shaking his head. "You think you can come here and make demands? This is my neighborhood, and I'll do as I please." His words ignited a fire in Maria. "You don't own us, Mr. Thompson," she shouted, stepping forward. "We are not your property. We have every right to be here, to live and thrive in this community." The crowd erupted in applause, their voices rising in solidarity. Maria felt the adrenaline coursing through her veins, emboldening her. This was their moment, and they were taking a stand against the oppression that had haunted them for too long. As the protest continued, neighbors began to share their own stories, recounting instances of discrimination they had faced from Mr. Thompson and others like him. Their voices merged into a powerful chorus of resilience, echoing through the streets of Maple Grove. Amidst the chanting and the unity, Mr. Thompson's demeanor began to shift. The smug smile faded from his face, replaced by a scowl of frustration. "You think this is going to change anything?" he shouted, but his voice wavered as the crowd's energy grew. "Together, we are stronger." Clara led the chants, her fervor infectious. "Together, we rise." The protest continued for hours, the energy unwavering as they stood their ground. Maria felt a profound sense of hope, a feeling she hadn't experienced since the eviction. They were no longer just victims, they were warriors for change. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the crowd, Maria caught a glimpse of Mr. Thompson, retreating into his office, his expression dark and defeated. A sense of victory washed over her. They had shown him that they wouldn't back down, that they would fight for their rights and the rights of their community. In the days that followed, news of the protest spread throughout Maple Grove. Local media covered the event, highlighting the community's resilience and the powerful messages shared. Support poured in from neighboring towns, and families began reaching out, eager to lend their voices to the cause. But amidst the celebration, Maria knew the fight was far from over. Mr. Thompson was not a man to be easily defeated. Rumors began to circulate about his retaliation, threats of eviction, intimidation tactics, and legal battles. The community braced itself for the storm that was sure to come. One evening, as Maria and Miguel sat together after dinner, Maria's phone buzzed with a message. It was from Clara. "We need to meet. Thompson is planning something, and we need to be prepared." The weight of uncertainty hung in the air as they exchanged worried glances. The battle had just begun, and they would need every ounce of strength and unity to face what lay ahead. But Maria was determined. They had come too far to back down now. As they prepared for the upcoming meeting, Maria felt the fire within her reignite. This was about more than just their family. It was about every family that had been marginalized and pushed aside. They would stand together and fight for their right to belong in Maple Grove. The battle ahead would test their resolve, but with each passing day, their commitment to change grew stronger. They were ready to face whatever Mr. Thompson had planned, armed with the strength of their community and the unwavering belief that together, they could create a future free from hatred and discrimination. The days following the protest were filled with uncertainty and tension in Maple Grove. Maria and Miguel, along with their neighbors, prepared for the challenges that lay ahead. Rumors swirled about Mr. Thompson's plans to retaliate against those who had spoken out against him, and anxiety loomed heavy over the community. But amid the fear, there was also a flicker of hope, a belief that they could overcome the adversity they faced. Clara called another meeting at the community center, and families gathered, their faces etched with concern but also determination. As they settled into their seats, Maria could feel the collective energy in the room. This was their community, and they were ready to stand together. Clara stood at the front, her presence commanding. I know many of you are worried about what Mr. Thompson might do next, she began, her voice steady. But we have something he doesn't: solidarity. We will not be intimidated. We will support one another and continue to stand against discrimination. A ripple of agreement swept through the room. Families nodded, their expressions resolute. Maria felt a surge of strength as she looked around at her neighbors, united in their fight for justice. We need to document everything, Clara continued. Any threats, any discriminatory practices. We'll gather evidence and take legal action if necessary. This isn't just about us. It's about everyone who has ever felt marginalized in this community. As the meeting unfolded, Maria felt a sense of purpose wash over her. They were no longer just a group of families fighting for their rights. They were a movement, a force to be reckoned with. The weight of their struggles transformed into a collective resolve to create change. The following weeks were a whirlwind of activity. The community organized workshops, educating families about their rights and how to report instances of discrimination. Maria found herself taking a leading role, sharing her story and encouraging others to do the same. With each meeting, the group grew stronger and they began to strategize how to confront Mr. Thompson head-on. One evening, as the sun set over Maple Grove, Maria sat with Miguel and their children, Sofia and Diego, at the kitchen table. They were preparing signs for the next rally. This time, they would not only protest outside Mr. Thompson's office, but also demand a community forum where their voices could be heard. Do you think we'll really be able to change things? Diego asked, his small hands gripping a marker tightly. Maria knelt beside him, meeting his gaze. Yes, Mio. We are fighting for our home and for all the families who deserve to feel safe and welcomed. When we stand together, we can make a difference. Sophia chimed in, her voice bright with enthusiasm. Can we make a sign that says, "We are all one community"? Absolutely, Miguel replied, smiling at his children. That's a great idea, Sophia. As they worked together, laughter filled their home. Maria felt a warmth in her heart, a reminder that their family was the foundation of their strength. They were not just fighting for themselves, they were fighting for a better future for their children. The day of the rally arrived, and the atmosphere in Maple Grove was electric. Families gathered, holding signs that showcased their unity and determination. Diversity is our strength. No more hate. Together we rise. The vibrant colors of the signs reflected the spirit of the community, each message echoing the sentiment of hope and resilience. As they marched toward Mr. Thompson's office, Clara led the crowd with a megaphone, rallying their spirits. Today, we stand together. Today, we demand to be heard. Maria felt the adrenaline coursing through her veins as they approached the office. The energy of the crowd was palpable, a powerful wave of voices united in purpose. She glanced at Miguel and her children, their faces filled with determination. This was their moment. Upon reaching the office, they formed a circle, standing shoulder to shoulder as Clara addressed the crowd. We are here today to demand change. We will not be silenced by hate or fear. We deserve a community that embraces all families, regardless of their background. The crowd erupted in cheers, their voices ringing through the streets. Maria's heart swelled with pride as she looked around at her neighbors, each person standing tall, unyielding in their commitment to justice. As the rally continued, news cameras arrived, capturing the powerful scene unfolding before them. Maria felt a sense of empowerment wash over her as she spoke to the reporters, sharing her family's story and the importance of standing against discrimination. But just as the energy reached its peak, Mr. Thompson emerged from his office, flanked by a group of supporters. His presence cast a shadow over the gathering, and an uneasy silence fell upon the crowd. "What do you think you're doing?" he shouted, his voice filled with contempt. "You have no right to disrupt my business." Clara stepped forward, her expression fierce. "We have every right to stand up against hate and demand change. Your discriminatory practices have no place in this community." Mr. Thompson scoffed, his arrogance evident. "You think your little protest will change anything? I'll make sure you regret this." Maria felt anger boiling within her, but she steadied herself. You may try to intimidate us, but we are stronger together. You can't silence our voices. The crowd rallied around her, chanting in unison, Together we rise. Together we rise. As the chants echoed through the streets, Maria felt a sense of victory wash over her. This was their moment, an affirmation of their strength and unity in the face of adversity. They would not back down, no matter the cost. As the rally concluded, the community felt an overwhelming sense of hope. They had taken a stand, and while the future remained uncertain, they knew they were no longer alone in their fight. The support of their neighbors had transformed their fear into empowerment. In the weeks that followed, the tide began to turn in Maple Grove. Local organizations took notice of the community's resilience and rallied behind them. Support poured in, with families from neighboring towns offering assistance and joining the fight for justice. Maria and Miguel continued to advocate for their community, working alongside Clara and their neighbors to challenge Mr. Thompson's oppressive tactics. They collected stories, documented evidence, and presented their case to local authorities, demanding action. One fateful evening, after a particularly intense meeting, they received news that Mr. Thompson had been served a cease and desist order regarding his discriminatory practices. The community erupted in celebration, their voices filled with joy and relief. This is just the beginning, Clara declared during the gathering. We will continue to fight for our rights, for our families, and for a community that welcomes everyone. As the community celebrated their victory, Maria felt a renewed sense of hope. They had faced challenges together and had emerged stronger than ever. They were no longer just a family fighting for their home. They were part of a movement dedicated to creating lasting change. In the months that followed, Maple Grove began to transform. New initiatives were introduced, and the community embraced diversity, fostering an environment of acceptance and inclusivity. Maria's Kitchen became a hub for community gatherings, where families came together to share meals, stories, and laughter. One evening, as Maria prepared dinner, she watched Sofia and Diego playing in the backyard, their laughter ringing through the air. Miguel joined her at the window, wrapping an arm around her shoulder. Look at them, he said, his voice filled with warmth. They're happy. Maria nodded, her heart swelling with pride. We've created a home for them, a place where they belong. As they stood together, gazing at their children, Maria felt a sense of fulfillment wash over her. They had fought for their rights, and in doing so, they had forged a stronger community, a place where love, acceptance, and hope reigned supreme. The Ramirez family have found their way back to a life filled with laughter, resilience, and a sense of belonging. And as they gathered around the dinner table each evening, sharing stories and meals, Maria knew that they were not just rebuilding their lives. They were part of a narrative of strength, unity, and the unwavering belief that love would always triumph over hate. And so, in the heart of Maple Grove, a new chapter began, one defined by hope, a commitment to justice, and the unwavering spirit of a community united in the face of adversity. The battle against racism was far from over, but they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, hand in hand as one. Thank you for watching our story, Racist Landlord Evicts Family, but New Owner Changes the Game. We hope you found inspiration in the journey of the Ramirez family and their fight for justice and community. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe for more impactful stories like this one. Your support helps us continue sharing powerful narratives that inspire change and promote unity. Stay tuned for our next video, and remember, together we can make a difference.